What's up, traders? Chris Capri here, 2ndSkiesForex.com. This is my final message to you for 2016, and I'm speaking both to my community of members in the online trading courses we have, such as the price action course, the ATM course, and the Ichimoku course. But I'm also speaking to the community at large who hasn't become a member but has kept active and reading the material on my site and engaging me and asking questions and working with all the free lessons. Y'all are a great community, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate working with you. You've made a commitment, often spending hours per day, to take on this challenge of trading. And it is a challenge. It's a challenge that less than 10% of the people who attempt it will succeed at. You know, if there's 1,000 people who will open up account on January 1st, then at the end of the year, less than 10% will have a profitable account. Yet, despite these challenging odds, these difficult odds, you charge on with all the doubts in your mind and the skepticism from your friends and family and all these online stories of how hard it is. The problem with these voices and these stories is that they come from mediocrity. They come from ordinary thinking. You cannot succeed in trading or life with mediocre thoughts or an ordinary mindset. Yet that's what you're surrounded by most of your daily life. And it comes from all sides. Most expect you to fail. Most expect you to live the same ordinary life because it solidifies their beliefs that what they are doing is right. That is what is taught in society and families and cultures and schools. And that is the stream that you have to swim against. Trading isn't, when you think about it, it's not a rational or a logical choice by any normal standards. In fact, if you look at every job that's pretty much out there, the rules are set for you by someone else. You work X hours, you get paid X dollars on these fixed days. And it all focuses around one core concept of solidity. There is a great deal of solidity and control. It's just not control that you really have. Trading completely inverts these normal patterns of work and life. And that's why it's not a rational or logical choice from what we're used to. You work as many hours as you can or want. You get paid not on a fixed schedule, but on a combination of skill, mindset, and what the market gives you, which changes from day to day. There are no fixed paydays in trading. There are no fixed hours. And there is nothing certain that you will make money at the end of the day, week, or month. Instead of being based on the everyday kind of solidity we experience in our typical lives, trading expresses two things that are quite different from that invert the normal experience, and that's uncertainty and interdependence. It's an interdependence of variables and factors that you really cannot control. There's nobody doing it for you. There's nobody making you do it or telling you what to do every step of the way. When you start to kind of combine these factors and put them all together, by themselves, they make it much more challenging and difficult than anything you normally do. Hence, to take trading on as a venture is not the safe choice. It involves risk, a much greater one than you would get in any normal 9-to-5 job. This takes courage. This takes an independent mindset and a willingness to step outside your comfort zone. When I think of the people who are listening to this, you want to be confident. You want to be courageous, and you want to be unconventional in the way you think and the way you live your life. I think you want a life different from the ordinary person. That's part of the reason why you're attracted to trading. Because you believe there's something different than the normal confines of the typical 9-to-5 job. In trading, there really is nobody to blame but ourselves. There is nobody to complain to. Essentially, you have to drive all blames into one, and that's you. It's you, it's your mindset, And it's your brain behind every decision you make in trading. Whether the choices are from deciding which broker you're going to work with, what training you're going to take, what strategies you're going to use, what instruments, what time frames, are you going to write in your journal or not? What's your review process like? Are you going to risk a fixed amount per trade or not? Everything you think for each and every moment before, during, and after trading. All of those choices are ones you make and are fully responsible for. Thus, when you think about it, all choices and all blames lead to one common denominator: you. This means you have to take total responsibility for your path in trading. It also means all the wins and losses, all the successes, and all the obstacles you encounter and will encounter, you have to turn them into the path, your path towards success. Everything you discover on your trading, the entire spectrum from day one to today, has to be turned towards your path, to be part of a larger goal, to become the bedrock of your success. A life of trading and a life like this is going to challenge you. It's going to be full of doubts, it's going to be full of obstacles, it's going to be full of setbacks. There is no linear path towards success in trading. It doesn't exist. Believing otherwise will only cause you suffering when you find out that that's not how it's working out. It will cause suffering, it will create confusion, and it will create doubt. All of us, including you, myself, we all want to be a better version of ourselves. We all want to be a better trader than we are now. Any higher vision or aspiration for your life must begin from this point onward. It cannot be something that you wait for a better time to begin. It has to begin with where you are now. And that means with your strengths and weaknesses now, with your diligence and your laziness, with your confidence and your doubts. There is no other place for this better version of yourself than now. It is what I would call very common and easy to think that you will be happier when you are successful. That's a very ordinary path. It's very easy to believe that you are going to be happy being someone else other than you are now. If you've had the thought, and I'm willing to bet most of you have, if you had this kind of line of thinking, someday, somewhere else, when I become this or accomplish that, if you've had this thought that if you were richer, smarter, stronger, more experienced, more knowledgeable, had better opportunities, if I only had these things, I would be successful, I would be happy. Have you had those thoughts before? If you have, I can tell you that's the wrong track. That won't work out for you. I mean, you have to ask yourself the question, if you believe that, if you really engage that line of thinking, how are you going to advance towards success right now if you're constantly idealizing some notion of a better trader self that is beyond who you are now? What incentive will there be? If you always think, well, I'll be happy only if I am this other person, where's the incentive for you to work with who you are now? It's not, when I look at my life, it's not the successes which made me who I am today. It's the hardships I experienced and overcame. That is where my confidence comes from. That is where my mindset comes from. It was in those really challenging moments that I had a choice. You know, I could take my usual typical route, or I could dig into my strengths. I could kind of bring out my inner resources. In those moments when I wasn't getting what I want, when the situation wasn't looking at all what I had envisioned, it was when I dug in and I found my strengths and my inner resources and then used them in that moment. That's what got me here. That's where my confidence comes from. You won't build that kind of confidence if you're constantly dreaming about a better version of yourself while disregarding who you are now. Those two really aren't compatible. And when you start to look at all of the tales of great successes, both in trading and life, their path to success it began with where they were, faults and all, poor circumstances and all. Think of Jesse Livermore. He didn't have positive circumstances and an upbringing and the right education to start a career in trading. He left all the comfort of his home and where he lived, and he moved to a place he didn't know anybody, and he built relationships, and he took the lowest job, which was he took the lowest job in trading at the time, which is the highest job he could get, and it was a person who was writing stock quotes on a chalkboard. He didn't get trained by anybody. He he created opportunities for himself. He put himself in a situation and he did anything he could to move himself forward. And he had a ton of obstacles and he had a ton of what I would say unsupportive conditions and faults when he started. And yet he had one of the most legendary and sad careers of trading. But he accomplished heights that most people will never even touch in trading ever again. He began with where he was, strengths and weaknesses, and that has to be the same for you. Successful people in trading in life, they don't wait for opportunities, they make them. If the conditions aren't there, they got creative. They cleared out obstacles. They made contacts and kept moving forward till the opportunities they needed and wanted manifested. Your current moment, your current challenges and circumstances in trading in life, that is where you will have to find transformation. When you do that, and that kind of willingness to work with who you are as you are and really try and transform it, when that person, when that version of you, who you are now, kind of combines with your intention and you relentlessly move forward towards that intention, regardless of the hardships you experience, this will create a confidence and mindset that will bring you success, not just in trading, but in life. And I'm saying this not from theories or books or some blog post I read. I'm speaking from direct experience. Some people haven't heard this, but many of you haven't heard this. But 17 years ago, I was living out of my car. And pardon my language and expression here, but it sucked balls. It was one of the most miserable experiences of my life, at least in that point in time. I'm a light sleeper. And to sleep in a car that was very small, it was cold every night and noisy, I barely slept 2 or 3 hours a night. And I was constantly worried some cop would come in my car and say, "Hey, you got to get out of here," or something would come wake me up. And I rarely slept in the same place. It was an incredibly difficult experience. Yet for as hard as this time in my life was, and I remember experiencing it. I remember the moment and where I was looking and what I was looking at, that I made this aspiration, this vow to myself that I'm going to transform my life for the better. And from that day on, I changed everything. And those changes that I vowed to make and did make, that's what got me here. At that point in time, I didn't have more than $2 to my name. I had no place to live. There were no supportive conditions to become a successful trader, to become successful at anything. And what I started doing was working relentlessly every day to change my life. I had no roadmap. I had no, you know, there was like no book, there was no like web page or anything like that I could kind of, like Google search or anything like that. All I had to rely upon was intuition, feeling, and whatever experiences and strengths I had back then, little skills I had back then. What got me through it was resilience, perseverance, and a very deep aspiration to create a better life and mindset for myself. And don't get me wrong, many times during this period or shortly after, I had totally fallen prey to, I became doubtful, fearful, I worried, I had a lack of confidence. I experienced all these things. All these things you experience as you struggle in trading, I experienced those same things. Not just in trading, but at this point in my life. And in many times it was suffocating. I felt like I couldn't do anything about it. Yet deep inside, underlying all these very harsh conditions of my life, I truly believed that I could be a better person, that I could live a better life, and that I could determine my success so that I could positively help people around me. That belief was in constant battle with my outer circumstances. There was that belief, and then there was the outer circumstances, which were polar opposite. They were high. It was highly uncomfortable, and it was embarrassing. It was personally embarrassing to go from you know very, very, very modest beginnings and from a very, very, very modest family that you know I am basically one and a half generations away from very poor people. My family that had were immigrants to the United States, and they were poor. And so it's not like I came with some, you know, wealthy parents or anything like that, or, great education or anything like that. I came from very, very modest circumstances. And I worked my ass off to get a degree. And, I was a Golden Key National Honor student, and I was a research assistant, and, I worked my ass off to be really good at school. And then to go from that to all of a sudden, you know, living in a car. When I reflected upon that, like, look, how did I get here, and all these things, it was my mindset and my choices that led me to that point, and that was a very uncomfortable thing to face. But I had to. I had to face that if I was going to make any sort of change or shift or pivot. And trust me, life pivots on moments like this. In fact, most of the directions of your life and things that you're doing now, they pivoted on very small moments. To be successful in trading life, you are going to need a level of self reflection, honest self reflection. And you'll have to become aware of your current limitations, your weaknesses, and your shortcomings. You're going to have to become aware of that. Without this, you're going to repeat the same mistakes over and over again, and you're even going to make mistakes you aren't even aware of. Honest self reflection and awareness of your shortcomings is both critical and necessary for success in trading in life. And I had to take an honest look at myself and all the choices I made that had got me to that point. Once I did, then I really could start to work with the situation. Until you take that look, until you take that, really look in that mirror of yourself and everything you've chosen up to this point, and your mindset and how you think and what you think about, only until you get to that point can you really start to make a shift. It is important to understand that as you begin this process and engage this process fully, that as you become more honest in your current limitations and your choices and your self-reflective qualities, you're going to see some things about yourself that are going to be uncomfortable. There's no way around it. There is absolutely no way around it. There is no person on the planet that doesn't have that experience or doesn't see unrefined qualities in themselves. The problem that I often find with students who struggle and traders who struggle is that they become paralyzed by those reflections. They have created a self-image, so they don't fill out their trading journal on a regular basis, and they win, like they get on a good winning streak, and all of a sudden they lose all of those gains in like two trades. And they do things that they know conceptually or intellectually that they shouldn't do, but they do it anyways. And then they wonder, why did I do that? I know I shouldn't have done that. Why? What's wrong with me? That's the kind of mindset and thought process they take. And if you become self-absorbed in that moment and you really kind of buy into that, you're going to paralyze yourself. And that doubt and those worries and those fears that you have, they will become suffocating. They will affect your performance and they're going to take you off the reservation. Your motivation to succeed is going to have to be greater than your doubts, your weaknesses, and what you lack. Only when this happens, only when the force of your motivation to succeed is a stronger force than your doubts and weaknesses and lack of confidence, only when that moment happens will you see a major shift. Will things start to pivot in the right direction? Will the compass start to turn north? Only when you do this will you be able to tackle and transcend your perceived limitations and your limiting beliefs. And I say perceived or limiting beliefs because that is what they are. They're a belief or a perception of a limitation that isn't real. I grew up in Chicago, and I was very fortunate that during that time period that I grew up, that Michael Jordan was playing basketball with the Bulls, and so I followed him immensely. And he was one of the most amazing athletes and individuals I've ever seen. I actually got to meet him once. It's just an amazing human being on so many different levels. And in his Hall of Fame commencement speech, the thing that he said at the end was, I think it really encapsulated his mindset. And he said, limits, like fears, are often just an illusion. Michael Jordan went headstrong into his fears, into his limiting ideas. He challenged them at every turn. And by doing this, he discovered that they were pretty much by and large mostly just an illusion. His doubts, his weaknesses, his lack of confidence, that his limiting beliefs, they were all an illusion. And it was because he did that. And if you really look at his story and his life and his mindset, it was because he did that and the mindset that he created through that he became one of the greatest athletes of all time. For me personally, when I was in that car, initially I was a little self-absorbed in my situation, but then eventually I kind of woke up and said, you know what? There is a different life that I'm supposed to be living. That I'm a different person I'm supposed to be. And this isn't it. I don't believe this current life is my story. It is my reality. I felt like, there's something else I'm supposed to be doing. There's something else I'm supposed to be thinking, believing, practicing, training in. I didn't know what it was, and I had no idea how to get there. So what did I start doing? I started changing most of the important things in my life. All the important things. I changed my diet, changed my lifestyle, changed my habits. And that made a huge shift. Just by shifting my habits around these very important things, did I start to see changes in my life. And it started to get a little bit brighter. It wasn't so dark, and things started to, my relationship started to shift, and things that I was having, I could actually have money now. I could get my own place eventually. That made a huge shift. However, I knew I needed more. That wasn't going to get me to where I wanted to be. What I felt was my potential, my reality. I knew I needed something more. And what I knew is I needed to train, but I didn't know what. And through paying attention and through listening to myself and remembering what are some of the things that I did that made me feel the best, the most clear, the most relaxed and confident and just, you know, strong on the inside, I had an idea, and I knew something in a particular region was going to get me there. I just didn't know what, but I knew I needed to train. And so I sought training from people who could help, or I felt could help me become a better version of myself. More clear, more confident, more creative, more, insightful, wise, and confident, and, positive. And that led me to yoga and meditation. And it led me to the only two teachers I've had. The first teacher I had, fantastic teacher. I was so grateful for them. They taught me so much, and I had some amazing experiences with them. And, working with them, I started to see a shift immediately. And I worked hard with them, and I trained with them, and lamentably they had to go. They had to move to another country, and so I haven't seen them since. I often think about them, and I wish them the best. But they led me to my second teacher, my current teacher, and that's the one I've been with for the last 16 years. And you know, some of the things they were presenting to me, they weren't necessarily logical or rational, but I trusted them. And I've been training diligently with their teachings and their methods ever since the last 16 years. You know, they pushed me to go beyond what was comfortable, logical, or rational. And if I let my intellectual mind and my logical mind or my rational mind or my comfort zone determine my training, then I wouldn't be with them anymore today, and I wouldn't be where I am today. But by going beyond my comfort zone and what was logical and rational, it's paid dividends that has lasted me the last 16 years and will for the rest of my life. My training with them is what has made me who I am today. And I am ever grateful for them and their training and the relationship that I still have with them today. A very close and personal relationship that is like no other relationship. And so, my suggestion for you in 2017 is to find that person and work with them. Find someone who is not just an emblem of success in their field, but has a positive impact upon others around them. Find someone with a unique point of view, not someone who's, saying the same things over and over again and taking a copy and paste version of something else and just repeating it. Talk to somebody and train with somebody who has, a direct experience, a unique experience and point of view, someone who speaks something different out there. Find someone that when you hear them speak and what they teach, that it resonates with you and your views on trading in life, almost like they are completing thoughts that you had but you couldn't fully form. That happens to me with my teacher all the time. There's certain things that I'm thinking or have thought or felt like was true, and the difference is that not only are they able to communicate those thoughts in a much more clear and articulate way, they have a direct experience of those thoughts. They have a direct experience of that wisdom, of that insight, of that intelligence. And it's something that they can live and embody. And I can't even tell you how many times they say something or express something or share something, and I'm sitting there going, damn, that's amazing. Like, yeah, I feel that same way, but it was just like for me, it was in its infancy, and for them, it's a fully fledged experience. I'm speaking from my personal experience here and working with my teacher and how it has helped me build a successful mindset that and the life that I have today. And I'm very grateful for what I have. And in that experience of gratitude, that includes working with you. That includes working with you, my students. I can't even tell you how much I've learned from you and working with you. We come from different cultures and different religions and backgrounds and experience, and we're not, when it comes to trading, we're not religious and we're not political and we're not, you know, we're all focused on the same thing, being successful. We don't care about those other boundaries. I've seen so many of you grow from traders who are struggling, maybe even not just struggling in trading, but in your life as well, feeling confused, losing money, to all of a sudden you're starting to break even. And then pretty soon you're starting to make money. And you're feeling a confidence that you haven't had. You're seeing real change, both in your trading and your life. And I get emails from so many students all the time communicating this. Seeing you succeeding, hearing about your success, that is a joy I cannot fully describe or explain. I wish like there was something in my computer that it was like intelligent and it knew when one of those emails was going to come in, and it would just turn on the webcam and capture my expression in that moment when I'm reading those emails. Nothing makes me happier than hearing about another student becoming successful, becoming confident, and seeing real change, not just in their trading, but in their life as well. That experience, that moment, that brief moment, is far more rewarding than the thousands of trades I've won. There have been many students like you with full-time jobs and very little experience in the market that have turned the corner. Taxi drivers, engineers, college students, retirees, aviation employees. I mean, everything you could possibly imagine. These same students, they've turned the corner, and there will be many more. And nothing would make me happier than the next one being you. Before I end, I want to share this amazing email I got the other day. Now, as many of you know, my goal, my personal goal in life is to have, in my work, is to have a positive impact upon people, not just in trading, but your mindset in life as well. So it resonates and touches everything that you do. There are three things that I do for my work. I trade, I meditate, and I donate. Each and every one of you that has become a member of one of our courses, you've also donated as well. Because a portion of every course fee, every single course fee, there isn't a single course fee that comes in that doesn't go out to the dozens of philanthropic projects and nonprofits my company supports around the world. And so I've taken a screenshot and I'm going to share it with you of this email I got just before Christmas because I donated a huge chunk of proceeds we got from course fees to this organization. I've donated to many, and this is just one of them. And so they sent me this email just before Christmas, and I'm going to put it in the post and I'm going to put it in the video so you can see it for yourself. But I'm going to read some of the key highlights here so you can see how just by becoming a member, you have had a positive impact upon people and people who need help, people who need resources, people who need support. So in this email, it says, "Dear Chris, it's so enormously helpful that you have donated once again to Animal Aid. Animal Aid is the Unlimited, is the organization that I donate to and sent me this letter. They said, your donations go straight toward rescuing animals on the street. Animal Aid gives people a chance to see these animals feel better, to heal, play, and begin to love life again. As we continue into the future, I am ever more convinced that the way to multiply our help these animals is to share their stories. And that's what they do. This organization does these great videos where they find these animals that are paralyzed, injured, suffering, and they bring them back to health and they care for them and they help them find homes. It's an amazing organization. And some of these videos, you watch them, it's hard not to cry. I can't even tell you how many times I've cried watching some of these videos. Just watching like some of these animals that are just so, I mean, they're suffering in such immense ways. And they have no hope and there's nobody around to care for them. And then this organization, Animal Aid Unlimited, comes in. And because they're a nonprofit, they're only doing it from donations like myself and students like you who've helped them out and other people around the world. That's the only way they can exist. And when you start to see how some of these animals are suffering and how they transform and are rescued and eventually get to live, a healthy life, many of them on like the brink of death, it's hard not to be moved by that. It's hard not to be touched by that. And so, in the rest of the email, continuing on with the email, she says, "Your donations are a great help to animals and to me personally. Sometimes I do get down about the way animals are treated or how these animals are suffering. But your donation reminds me that there is another being out there who sees animals as I see them and who understands what many do not. That animals are amazing beings and that it's a privilege to help them when they fall and need our help. Thank you, Chris, for this immense kindness you are giving to these animals. Sincerely, Erica, who's co-founder of the organization." And on that note, I want to say a big thank you to all of you who have joined and become a member and for donating to projects like these and many others where your contribution has had a positive and massive impact upon others to uplift this world. 2016 was a year of great change and hard work and growth for the community here at Second Skies Forex. Yet becoming successful in your trading and mindset, that will pay dividends for the rest of your life. And so with my final thoughts to you, I say the following. Keep working towards your goals and success. It will be the best investment you ever make. Turn hardships into a challenge. Tackle obstacles to clear the path forward. Take all the blame for your successes and failures, and turn everything you meet along the way and make it a part of your road to success. When in doubt, remember your vision and motivation for doing this. When successful, be grateful. And never stop working to become a better version of yourself and have a positive impact upon others. If you focus on increasing your positive qualities every day while reducing your negative ones, it will only be a matter of time before you are aware where you want to be and who you want to be. Who you believe is a better expression of who you are. And that is a person who is confident, who is successful, and can take on any challenge. As always, I look forward to working with you in the future, and I wish you nothing but abundance, success, and clear horizons for the next year. My warmest regards. This is Chris Capri, founder of SecondSkiesForex.com, where we change the way you think, trade, and perform.